We turn now to the southern border crisis. The Supreme Court set to hear oral arguments over the Biden administration ending the Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy that is different from Title 42. For the latest, we'll bring in congressional correspondent Kilmeny Dukart live on Capitol Hill with the latest. They're outside the Supreme Court building. Good morning.
Good morning, Sean and Emma. Oral arguments have just kicked off in Biden versus Texas and Missouri, and the justices are going to decide. They're going to hear these arguments on whether the Biden administration must legally enforce the so-called Remain in Mexico policy enacted under the Trump administration, or as it's formally known, Migrant Protection Protocols, or MPP. There's some immigration activists behind me lobbying these justices to basically rescind what the Biden administration has done. President Biden ended the policy shortly after taking office, but the lower courts ruled in favor of a Republican challenge by Missouri as well as Texas that the policy could stand. In its petition to the Supreme Court, the Biden administration argues that the injunction is compelling the executive branch to maintain a controversial policy that the secretary has determined is contrary to the interests of the United States to divert resources from other critical priorities and to engage in ongoing coordination with Mexico. Well, the district judge that upheld the policy noted that Texas and Missouri's legal arguments and its procedural background, that the goal of MPP was to ensure that certain aliens attempting to enter the U.S. illegally or without documentation, including those who claim asylum, will no longer be released into the country, where they often fail to file an asylum application and or appear before an immigration judge can determine the merits of any claim. We spoke with Missouri's Attorney General Eric Schmidt a little bit earlier today. He says they're very confident going into this case behind me, but separately they had the victory winning this lawsuit to put a temporary restraining order on Title 42 to keep it in place. I spoke with the Attorney General about this. Take a listen.
If Biden is successful in eliminating Title 42, you will see a tsunami of illegal immigration. 18,000 people a day is the estimate. It's a total disaster. And so we were successful yesterday at the district court level to get the temporary restraining order. We'll be back in court in about a month. Look, it's up to the states. The federal government, because of Joe Biden's leadership, has completely created an open border, and it's up to the states now to push back. I'm proud that Missouri is helping lead that charge.
As far as the fate of Remain in Mexico, the case that the Supreme Court is hearing today, they did agree to fast track this case so we could have a decision this summer. But the court is no stranger to this case, given the fact that it upheld the Trump administration's policy previously.
Yeah, two immigration policies in the news today, one being heard there behind you. Kilmeny Dukart live there at the Supreme Court building. Kilmeny, thank you.
Joining us now to discuss is Republican Congressman from Texas, member of the House Armed Services Committee, Pat Fallon. Congressman, welcome to National Report. Thanks for coming on today. As Sean was pointing out, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to immigration policies. Let's start with Title 42. The fact that now that's essentially blocked from being lifted. What's your reaction?
Well, I think it's great news, quite frankly, because Title 42, as you were mentioning earlier, if that's rescinded, well, look at where we are right now, Emma. We have, in the last 13 months, we've had at least 150,000 illegal border crossers every month. That's never happened before in our history. We had a calendar year where we had 2 million illegal border crossings. The cartels are making about $4,000 a person that crosses the border. That's about $1 billion a month. That's starting to rival their income from illegal narcotics. So and people along the border are sick of the crime, the corruption, and the chaos and the cartels. And what Joe Biden has done is made every state a border state. So Title 42 is one tool where people can be expelled and not allowed into the country. That, coupled with migrant protection protocols, are really tools to keep Americans safe. And Joe Biden doesn't want to use either.
I know you've traveled to the border multiple times. Tell me what stands out the most to you from those visits.
Honestly, the morale of the Customs and Border Patrol agents, they're incredibly well trained. They're motivated to do their jobs, and they just want to enforce the laws that are on the books. And they want this administration to take essentially the handcuffs off and allow them to protect Americans. But they're not doing that. This administration is telling them for instance, that, migrant protection protocols, better known as wait in Mexico policy, ignore that, even though the judiciary said that the administration should do that. And the fact that 30%, Emma, of women that migrate from southern Mexico and Central America are raped or sexually assaulted along the journey. That's something that the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about. An open border is an immoral border, both for folks that live south of it and north of it.
You see children also who come across alone, and you have to imagine are unbelievably terrified for what might come their way. And that's why you do have Border Patrol agents who are doing the best they can, although it is a dangerous job. And we were reminded of that recently following the death of Texas National Guard Specialist Bishop Evans, who initially went missing after attempting to rescue 2 illegal migrants who appeared to be drowning. The White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki had this to say about his passing. Let's listen.
Of course, we are mourning the loss of his life, and we are grateful for the work of every National Guardsman. I would note that the National Guard work for the states, and so he is an employee of the Texas National Guard, and his efforts and his operation were directed by there, not by the federal government.
Congressman, your reaction?
Why can't you just call Bishop Evans a hero, an American hero that he is? Why sit there and split hairs as to he was working for the Texas National Guard? You know what, Jen Psaki, or as I like to call her, Jen Snarky, if the Biden administration was doing their jobs, Bishop Evans wouldn't have had been there in the first place. Those migrants wouldn't have been drowning in the first place, because 72% of the people right now, Emma, that are coming across the border aren't even from Mexico. So when you have an asylum claim and you're already in a third country, it doesn't sit well. I mean, you're really, let's call it for what it is. This is an economic migration. So what President Trump did, turning this flood into a trickle, is say, you can wait in Mexico while your asylum claim is adjudicated. That makes complete sense.
Yeah. You've now got Democratic lawmakers. They had spoken out against Title 42. Would be interesting to get a follow-up now that stay had been put in place. But what does that tell you as we inch towards the midterm elections? Do you think more Democratic lawmakers are taking note of this crisis and are trying to take steps to get it under control?
Well, I hope so. But, it's hard to say if this is just a political maneuver because, the election is closing in on 6 months away. Or is it really something that they're committed to the policy? And for that, you have to look back not just months, but years. And unfortunately, the overwhelming number of Democrats in Washington have proven they're not committed to a secure border policy. And so what I think what we'll see, and they're just on really political convenience, as having them run from the Biden administration because of his record low poll numbers. But I think we're going to be looking not at a red wave come November, but a red tsunami.
Before I let you go, I got to ask you about one of the top stories of the day that's got everyone talking. Of course, Elon Musk now taking over Twitter. What do you think about it?
Free at last. You know what? When were liberals? I thought liberals liked free speech. Now free speech for them means only if it's liberal speech. And I think that's ridiculous. I am very confident in our positions and logic and data. And I'm comfortable with somebody being able to disagree with me and use social media platforms. But unfortunately, the left is terrified of having equal access. And I'd love to see Facebook follow suit. I don't know if Elon's got, I don't know what Facebook is worth, but I hope Elon buys them too.
Do you think the former president will be back on? Would you like to see him be able to tweet?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the tweets. I thought they had a lot of spice to them, and they were thought-provoking. I didn't agree with every one of them, of course, but I don't know. He's got Truth Social, and that seems to be on the rise. And we'll see. Hopefully, he uses Truth Social and Twitter, to be honest.
Could reach an even larger audience there. And then finally, for you, Congressman, the debate over Section 230 now seems like the White House might be interested in having some conversations. Do you think Congress would be playing a role in that now?
Yeah, well, I was looking at 230. We've been looking at it for quite a while. Yeah. I found it interesting that the left ignored that until now their allies don't own every major social media platform. Interesting.
We'll see if there could be a compromise in the future. Congressman Pat Fallon joining us this morning. Thanks, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Alpha. God bless.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.